I sat at my parents' dining table, fork frozen halfway to my mouth, as my mother looked right through me to smile at my sister. Chelsea beamed back, her perfect teeth glinting under the chandelier. Mom's voice carried that familiar edge of disappointment when she turned to me. Chelsea just made partner at her law firm. She's the one we're proud of. My father nodded, not even glancing my way. I set down my fork, finished my water, and quietly collected plates from the table. In the kitchen, I washed dishes while they laughed in the other room. I dried my hands, said goodbye to the empty kitchen, and drove home. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from my brother. "Mom's in tears and won't talk to anyone. What did you do?" The message from my brother Dylan hit me like a punch to the gut. I stared at those words for a solid minute, sitting in my car outside my office building. What did I do? I showed up to dinner. I listened to another round of comparisons. I cleaned their kitchen and left without causing a scene. That's what I did. I called Dylan back immediately. He answered on the first ring, his voice tight with concern. "Marcus, seriously, what happened last night?" "Mom's locked herself in her bedroom. Dad's furious. Chelsea's threatening to never come home again. The whole house is chaos." I pulled into a parking spot and turned off the engine. "Dylan, I literally did nothing. I ate dinner, washed dishes, and left." "That's it." "Well, something you did set Mom off. She woke up this morning sobbing. She won't eat. She keeps saying she's a terrible mother and that she's lost you forever." A cold feeling settled in my stomach. I hadn't said anything dramatic or made any grand statements. I'd simply left after cleaning up, just like I always did. But maybe that was the problem. Maybe my silence had finally communicated what years of trying to talk hadn't. "I'll call her," I said, though part of me resisted. How many times had I reached out, tried to explain, tried to connect, only to be compared unfavorably to Chelsea's supposedly brilliant life? "Please do. Dad's acting like you committed some crime." After we hung up, I sat in my car for another 10 minutes. I'm 34 years old. I work as a financial systems analyst for a mid-sized tech company. I own my home. I have savings. I volunteer at a youth center on weekends. By any reasonable measure, I'm doing fine. Better than fine, actually. But to my parents, I'm invisible. Chelsea is the star. Chelsea the lawyer. Chelsea the golden child. Never mind that I've been quietly paying their property taxes for the last 3 years. Never mind that I covered Dad's medical bills when he had that surgery 18 months ago. Never mind that I bought Mom's car when hers died and let her think Dad surprised her with it. I did all of that anonymously, through careful maneuvering and white lies, because I knew if they found out it came from me, they'd find a way to diminish it. They'd say Chelsea would have done more. They'd say I was just trying to show off. So I stayed invisible and kept helping. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Chelsea herself. "What did you say to Mom?" "She's having a breakdown and it's your fault." I didn't respond. Instead, I finally called my mother. She answered on the 5th ring, her voice thick with tears. "Marcus?" "Hi, Mom. Dylan said you're upset. What's wrong?" A long pause. Then, Did I hurt you last night?" The question caught me off guard. In 34 years, I couldn't remember her ever asking me that. "Mom, we've had this conversation before." "No." Her voice cracked. "We haven't. I've talked at you before. But last night, when you left so quietly, I realized you didn't argue. You didn't defend yourself. You didn't try to tell me about your accomplishments like you used to. You just left. Like you'd given up on me ever seeing you." I gripped the steering wheel with my free hand. "What do you want me to say?" "I want to understand. Your father and I were talking after you left, and we realized we don't actually know what you do for work. We don't know if you're dating anyone. We don't know what makes you happy. We've been so focused on Chelsea's achievements that we never asked about yours. Something twisted in my chest. Was this real? Or would tomorrow bring another dinner where Chelsea's latest case took center stage and I faded back into the wallpaper? Mom, I'm a financial systems analyst. I've had the same job for 6 years. I've told you this probably 20 times. You've never asked follow-up questions. Silence on the other end. Then, you're right. I'm so sorry, Marcus. Can you come over tonight? Can we talk properly? I hesitated. I'll think about it. I need to get to work. Please. Your father wants to talk too. I'll let you know. I hung up and sat in the parking lot for another 20 minutes. My phone kept buzzing. Messages from Dylan asking if I'd called. Messages from Chelsea, demanding I fix whatever I'd broken. A voicemail from Dad, his voice gruff. Son, call your mother back. Work this out. The thing was, I hadn't broken anything. I'd just stopped holding it together. At work, I couldn't focus. My colleague Jennifer noticed immediately. You look like someone died. Everything okay? Family stuff, I said, pulling up a spreadsheet that might as well have been written in ancient Greek for all the sense it made to me right then. Want to talk about it? I almost said no. Then I found myself explaining the whole thing. The years of comparisons. The invisible support I'd provided. Last night's dinner. This morning's crisis. Jennifer listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Marcus, I've worked with you for 4 years. You rebuilt our entire financial tracking system. You saved this company hundreds of thousands of dollars. You trained half the department. You're brilliant at what you do. If your family can't see that, that's their loss. They see Chelsea's law degree and think that's success. Is Chelsea happy? The question stopped me. I didn't actually know. We barely spoke beyond obligatory holiday conversations. I knew the highlight reel she presented at family dinners, but I didn't know her real life. I have no idea, I admitted. Jennifer smiled sadly. Maybe that's the problem. Everyone's performing for each other, instead of actually connecting. Her words stuck with me through the rest of the day. By the time 5 o'clock rolled around, I'd made a decision. I texted my mother. I'll come over at 7, but I need you to listen, really listen, to what I have to say. She responded immediately. Yes. Thank you. We'll be ready. I drove home, changed clothes, and sat on my couch staring at the wall. What was I going to say? How do you explain to your parents that they've made you feel worthless for most of your life, without sounding bitter or accusatory? At 6:45, I got in my car. At 6:58, I pulled into their driveway. The porch light was on. Through the window, I could see both my parents sitting in the living room, waiting. I knocked instead of using my key. Dad answered the door. He looked older than I remembered, more uncertain. Come in, son. Mom was on the couch, tissues in hand, eyes red. They'd clearly been talking, maybe arguing. The air felt heavy with unsaid things. I sat in the armchair across from them. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Mom started. Marcus, I owe you an enormous apology. But before she could continue, the front door burst open. Chelsea stood there. Still in her work suit, her face flushed with anger. Okay, I'm here. Let's settle this family drama so I can get back to my actual life. And just like that, the moment shattered. Mom's attention shifted immediately to Chelsea. Dad stood up, concerned about why Chelsea looked so upset. I sat in the armchair, once again invisible. Chelsea launched into a story about her terrible day, a difficult client, a partner at her firm who was being unreasonable. My parents listened with rapt attention, making sympathetic noises. I stood up. I'm going to go. What? No. Mom looked torn between me and Chelsea. We were about to talk. We were. I agreed. But this is more important, apparently. Don't be dramatic, Marcus, Chelsea snapped. The world doesn't revolve around you. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something I'd missed before. Her eyes were bloodshot. Her hands trembled slightly. Her perfect suit couldn't hide how thin she'd become. Chelsea, are you okay? I'm fine. Stop trying to make this about me to avoid dealing with your own issues. But she wasn't fine. And suddenly, I wondered what else I'd been missing while staying invisible. I didn't leave. Something in Chelsea's eyes, a desperate edge I'd never seen before, kept me rooted in place. My parents were fussing over her, asking if she'd eaten, if she needed anything. I'm fine, she repeated, but her voice cracked on the word. I sat back down. Chelsea, when's the last time you slept? What? You heard me. You look exhausted. When did you last get a full night's sleep? Her face flushed with anger. I don't need you psychoanalyzing me, Marcus. I came here to deal with whatever crisis you caused, not to be interrogated. I didn't cause a crisis. I just stopped pretending. Pretending what? That it doesn't hurt. The room went silent. Mom's hand went to her mouth. Dad shifted uncomfortably. Chelsea stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. What are you talking about? Chelsea demanded. Every dinner, every holiday, every phone call. It's always about you, your accomplishments, your cases, your life. I'm just the background character who shows up and nods along. That's not true, Mom protested weakly. Mom, quick. What do I do for a living? She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. You work with computers? I'm a financial systems analyst. I've had the same job for 6 years. I've been promoted twice. I manage a team of 7 people. I redesigned our company's entire financial infrastructure last year and saved them $400,000 annually. Dad blinked. You did? You've never asked. Neither of you have. Chelsea makes partner, and you throw a celebration dinner. I get promoted to senior analyst, and you say that's nice, and change the subject to Chelsea's latest case. I didn't know you felt this way, Mom whispered, because you never asked. I turned to Chelsea. And you never noticed either. Do you even know where I live? Chelsea's face went pale. Of course I do. You live in that neighborhood. I bought a house 3 years ago. You've never visited. You've never asked to see it. You don't know that I volunteer at a youth center, teaching financial literacy. You don't know that I'm dating someone. That last part was a lie. But I wanted to see if anyone would question it. You're dating someone? Mom perked up immediately. Who? What's her name? When can we meet her? There is no girlfriend, Mom. I was testing whether you'd suddenly care about my life if I dangled something interesting enough. The hurt on her face was real, but so was mine. Chelsea exploded. So, this is all some manipulation? You're playing mind games to make us feel guilty? No, I said quietly. I'm trying to make you see me. I've been invisible my whole life, Chelsea. You were the gifted student, the debate champion, the one who got into Harvard Law. I was just Marcus, the kid who was good at math but not exceptional at anything. That's not my fault. I'm not saying it is. But you never once stood up for me. Every time Mom and Dad compared us, you soaked in the praise and never said, hey, Marcus is great too. You let them build you up by tearing me down. I never asked them to do that, but you never asked them to stop. Chelsea sat down heavily, and for the first time I saw the cracks in her perfect facade. Her hands shook as she rubbed her face. You think my life is so perfect, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. You think I don't know how much pressure I'm under? Every single day, I have to prove I deserve to be at that firm. Every single case has to be perfect. Every brief, every argument, every client interaction. One mistake, and I'm done. Chelsea. Mom reached for her. And you know what the worst part is? Chelsea looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. I'm failing. I'm failing at all of it. I made partner, yes, but I don't have any major clients. The other partners barely respect me. They gave me the title to fill a diversity quota, and everyone knows it. I work 18-hour days, trying to prove them wrong, but I'm drowning. The admission hung in the air like a bomb. Why didn't you tell us? Dad asked. Because you're so proud of me. Because the only value I have in this family is being the successful one. If I'm not the golden child, what am I? And there it was. The ugly truth neither of us had been willing to say. We'd both been trapped in the roles our parents had assigned us. Chelsea, the star. Marcus, the disappointment. Neither of us had permission to be anything else. This is my fault, Mom said, tears flowing freely now. I did this to both of you. I put so much pressure on you, Chelsea, and I neglected you, Marcus. I thought I was motivating you both, but I was hurting you both. Mom, I started. No, let me finish. After you left last night, Marcus, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every family dinner, every conversation. And I realized I couldn't remember the last time I asked you a real question about your life. I've been so busy bragging about Chelsea to my friends that I forgot to actually see either of you. Dad cleared his throat. I'm guilty too. I kept telling myself you were fine, Marcus, because you never complained. I took your strength for granted. And Chelsea, I put all that pressure on you to succeed because I never went to college, and I wanted to live vicariously through you. Chelsea laughed bitterly. Well, congratulations. Your vicarious life is falling apart. What do you mean? I asked gently. She took a shaky breath. I'm getting pushed out of the firm. They're building a case to revoke my partnership. I've lost 3 major clients in the last 2 months. I'm probably going to be unemployed by Christmas. But I couldn't tell anyone because you're all so proud of me, and I couldn't stand to disappoint you. Chelsea, you could never disappoint us, Mom insisted. Really? Because the only time you seem interested in my life is when I'm winning. The second I show weakness, you change the subject or tell me to work harder. I realized she was right. Our parents had created an environment where only success was celebrated, and struggle was ignored or dismissed. No wonder Chelsea had been hiding her problems. No wonder I'd stopped trying to share my achievements. We need to change, I said. All of us. This family is broken. I don't want to lose either of you, Mom sobbed. Please tell me it's not too late. I looked at Chelsea. Her perfect composure was completely gone. She looked young and scared and human in a way I hadn't seen since we were kids. It's not too late, I said. But it's going to take work. Real work. From everyone. Dad nodded. What do we need to do? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Marcus Henderson? This is Attorney Grace Wu from Henderson and Associates. We need to speak with you immediately regarding your sister Chelsea Henderson. Please call me at your earliest convenience. I showed the text to Chelsea. Her face went white. Oh no. Oh no. What is it? Mom demanded. Chelsea covered her face with her hands. I did something stupid. I was so stressed, and I made a terrible mistake. Marcus, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Chelsea, what did you do? She looked up at me, terror in her eyes. I used your name. On a case. I needed a financial expert witness to sign off on some documents, and I couldn't afford to hire anyone. So I forged your credentials and said you were a certified financial analyst who reviewed the materials. My blood ran cold. You committed fraud using my identity? I was desperate. The case was falling apart, and I just needed someone with financial expertise to back up my arguments. I didn't think anyone would check. Chelsea. That's a crime. That's identity theft and fraud. You could be disbarred. I could face charges. I know. That's why I've been freaking out. The opposing counsel started asking questions about this expert witness and demanding to interview you. I kept making excuses, but they're getting suspicious. That attorney is probably calling you to verify your credentials. Mom looked like she might faint. Dad had gone completely pale. How could you do this? I asked. Not angry, but genuinely confused. How could you put my name on legal documents without asking me? Because I knew you'd say no, and I couldn't fail this case. It was my biggest client. If I lost them, it would prove everyone right about me, not deserving my partnership. So you dragged me into your mess? I'm sorry. She was sobbing now. I'll fix it. I'll tell them I made a mistake. I'll take the blame. I won't let this touch you. But the damage was already done. Whatever happened next, my name was now attached to Chelsea's fraud. If this went to the State Bar Association, if the client sued, if anyone started digging, they'd find my name on documents I'd never seen, providing expert testimony I'd never given. And my parents were witnessing the golden child's spectacular fall from grace. I called Attorney Grace Wu back from my parents' driveway, stepping outside because I needed air and space to think clearly. She answered immediately, her voice crisp and professional. Mr. Henderson, thank you for returning my call. I represent Sterling Financial Group in a lawsuit where you've been listed as an expert witness. I need to verify some information about your credentials and the analysis you provided. Attorney Wu, I need to be completely transparent with you. I never served as an expert witness in any case. I never provided any analysis. I never signed any documents. My sister, Chelsea Henderson, used my name without my knowledge or permission. A long pause. Then, are you saying your sister committed fraud? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I found out about this 5 minutes ago. I'm as shocked as you are. Mr. Henderson, this is extremely serious. The case is in active litigation. If your testimony is fraudulent, it could constitute grounds for sanctions and potentially criminal charges against your sister. I understand. I'm willing to cooperate fully with any investigation. I'll provide whatever documentation you need to prove I wasn't involved. I appreciate your cooperation. I'll need to report this to the judge immediately. You should expect contact from the State Bar Association and possibly law enforcement. I'm sorry you've been dragged into this situation. After we hung up, I stood in the cold night air, trying to process what had just happened. My sister, in her desperation to maintain her perfect image, had committed multiple crimes using my identity. The irony wasn't lost on me. The golden child had tarnished herself by trying to polish her reputation with my stolen credentials. I walked back inside. Chelsea was curled up on the couch, still crying. Mom sat beside her, looking lost. Dad paced near the window. What did she say? Dad asked. She's reporting it to the judge and the State Bar Association. Chelsea's probably going to face criminal charges for fraud and identity theft. I might have to testify against her. Chelsea let out a sound like a wounded animal. Mom held her tighter. There has to be something we can do, Mom pleaded. Some way to fix this. The only way to fix this is for Chelsea to take full responsibility, cooperate with the investigation, and face the consequences of her actions. But her career... Mom trailed off. Her career is over, I said bluntly. She committed fraud. She used my identity to deceive a court. There's no coming back from that. Chelsea looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. I've destroyed everything. My career, my reputation, and now I've dragged you into it too. I'm so sorry, Marcus. I'm the worst sister in the world. Part of me wanted to comfort her. Part of me wanted to scream. But mostly I felt numb. Why? I asked. Why did you think this was okay? Because everything's always been so easy for you, she burst out. You do your job, and you're fine with being average. You don't have the weight of everyone's expectations crushing you every single day. Mom and Dad made me into this thing I could never actually be, and when I started failing, I didn't know how to stop. So I kept lying and cheating and hoping I could fake it until I made it real. Easy for me? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Chelsea, you just said yourself that I'm invisible in this family. You think being ignored and dismissed is easy? At least nobody's judging your every move. They're not judging because they don't care enough to look. We were both shouting now. Years of resentment pouring out in my parents' living room. You want to know what's easy? I continued. Having a family that actually sees you. Having parents who ask about your life. Having a sister who doesn't steal your identity to cover up her failures. That would be easy, Chelsea. What I've had is lonely. And what I've had is suffocating, she shot back. Do you know what it's like to know that if you fail, you'll disappoint everyone who matters to you? To know that your worth as a person is tied to your job title and your accomplishments. That's what you chose to believe. Nobody forced you to define yourself by your career. Yes, they did. She pointed at our parents. They made me the smart one, the successful one, the one who was going to make something of herself. And they made you the other one, the one who was just okay. We were both trapped, Marcus. You were trapped in being invisible, and I was trapped in being perfect. Neither of us got to just be ourselves. The truth of her words hit me hard. We'd both been victims of our parents' expectations, just in different ways. Mom was crying openly now. I did this. I destroyed my children's relationship by putting them in competition with each other. It's not just you, Mom, I said, my anger deflating. We all played our parts. Chelsea could have refused to be your golden child. I could have spoken up sooner, instead of quietly resenting everyone. Dad finally spoke. What do we do now? How do we fix this family? I don't know if we can, I admitted. Chelsea's about to face serious legal consequences. Our family dynamics are toxic, and I'm not sure I trust any of you anymore. Please don't say that, Mom begged. We're still family. Family is supposed to support each other. You've spent 34 years supporting Chelsea and ignoring me. Chelsea spent her adult life maintaining a lie, and then committing crimes to keep it going. I've spent my life trying to earn love I was never going to get. That's not family. That's dysfunction. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Dylan. Dad just called. What the hell is happening? Is Chelsea really in legal trouble? I texted back. It's complicated. I'll call you tomorrow. Then another text came through. This one from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Henderson. This is Detective Sarah Palmer, with the Financial Crimes Unit. We need to speak with you regarding identity theft and fraud charges. Please contact me at 917-5550123 at your earliest convenience. I showed the text to Chelsea. She started hyperventilating. I'm going to jail. Oh my God, I'm going to jail. Maybe, I said. Probably not for a first offense if you cooperate and show remorse. But you're definitely going to be disbarred. You'll lose your license to practice law. My whole life is being a lawyer. If I'm not a lawyer, what am I? You're a person, Chelsea. That's what you are. A flawed, struggling person who made terrible choices. Just like the rest of us. Dad cleared his throat. Marcus, I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. But Chelsea's your sister. She needs support right now. Where was my support? I asked. Where was my support when I was crying myself to sleep in middle school because you told me I'd never be as smart as Chelsea? Where was my support when I got into college and you forgot to come to my graduation? Where was my support last year when I was hospitalized with appendicitis and not one of you visited because Chelsea had a case she was working on? Mom gasped. You were hospitalized? For 4 days. I called and told you. You said you'd come visit. You never did. Chelsea called once to say she was busy. Dad didn't call at all. I don't remember that. Dad said weakly. Of course you don't. Because it didn't involve Chelsea, so it wasn't important. The shame on their faces should have felt satisfying. Instead, it just made me tired. I need to go home, I said. Chelsea, you need to get a criminal defense attorney immediately. Don't talk to the police without representation. Cooperate fully with the investigation and take responsibility for what you did. Maybe if you're honest and show genuine remorse, they'll go easier on you. What about us? Mom asked. Our family? I don't know, Mom. I need time to think. I need space to figure out if I even want to keep doing this. Doing what? Pretending we're a functional family when we're not. I walked to the door. Behind me, I heard Chelsea sobbing and Mom trying to comfort her. Dad stood frozen, looking like someone had punched him. As I reached for the doorknob, Chelsea called out, "Marcus, wait. There's something else you need to know." I turned back, dread filling my stomach. What else? She wouldn't meet my eyes. The reason I had access to your personal information, your social security number, your credentials. I've been monitoring your finances. What? I set up alerts on your accounts. I wanted to know how much money you had because I was planning to ask you for a loan. A big one. $50,000. I'm in debt up to my eyeballs, and I thought if I could just get enough money to buy myself some time. You've been spying on my bank accounts? The violation felt worse than the identity theft somehow. How? How did you even access that information? I'm a lawyer. I know how to run background checks. And I used our parents' information from when we were younger, answering security questions with family details. So you've been planning to defraud me for months. It wasn't fraud. I was going to pay you back. With what money? You just said you're broke and about to be unemployed. Mom looked horrified. Dad had his head in his hands. The golden child was revealing herself to be a complete fraud, and they were watching it happen in real time. I'm sorry, Chelsea whispered. I'm sorry for everything. I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix this. I left. This time, nobody tried to stop me. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my living room, lights off, trying to process everything that had happened. My phone kept buzzing with messages from family members who'd heard pieces of the story and wanted details. I ignored all of them. At 7 a.m, I called Detective Palmer. She asked me to come to the station to give a formal statement. I agreed to meet her at 10. The police station was exactly what you'd expect. Fluorescent lights, uncomfortable chairs, and the smell of bad coffee. Detective Palmer was a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Mr. Henderson, thank you for coming in. I know this situation is difficult, especially given your relationship with the suspect. She's my sister, I said. But that doesn't change what she did. Can you walk me through the timeline of when you discovered the fraud? I explained everything. The family dinner, the tense confrontation, the revelation about Chelsea using my credentials, her admission about monitoring my finances. Detective Palmer took notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. Did you ever give your sister permission to access your personal information or use your name in any professional capacity? Never. I had no idea she had access to my financial information until she admitted it yesterday. Are you willing to press charges for the identity theft and financial surveillance? I hesitated. This was my sister. Despite everything, pressing criminal charges felt like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. I need time to think about that. For now, I'm focused on clarifying that I had no involvement in the legal fraud. That's understandable. For what it's worth, the evidence clearly shows you weren't involved in the court case. Your sister's law firm has already suspended her pending investigation. The State Bar Association has opened an ethics inquiry. She's facing professional consequences regardless of whether you press additional charges. After giving my statement, I drove to work. I'd taken the morning off, but sitting at home felt worse than keeping busy. Jennifer spotted me as soon as I walked in. Marcus, You look terrible. What happened? I gave her the abbreviated version. Her eyes grew wider with each detail. Your sister used your identity to commit fraud? That's insane. My whole family is insane. I'm just now realizing it. What are you going to do? I have no idea. Part of me wants to cut them all off completely. Part of me feels guilty for even thinking that. You're allowed to protect yourself, Marcus. Family doesn't get a free pass to hurt you just because you share DNA. Her words stayed with me through the day. By evening, I'd received calls from the State Bar Association, Sterling Financial Group's attorneys, and Chelsea's law firm. Everyone wanted statements, clarifications, documentation. The legal machinery was grinding into motion, and Chelsea was about to be crushed by it. At 6 p.m., Dylan called. Marcus, I need to know what's really going on. Mom and Dad are being weird and evasive. Chelsea won't answer her phone. What happened after I texted you? I told him everything. Dylan listened in stunned silence. Holy shit, he finally said. Chelsea really screwed up. That's putting it mildly. What are you going to do about the identity theft? Are you pressing charges? I don't know yet. What would you do? Dylan sighed. Honestly, I'd press charges. What she did was inexcusable. But she's our sister. And I don't know if I could actually go through with it. That's exactly where I am. For what it's worth. I'm sorry. I've been blind to how Mom and Dad treat you differently. I always thought you just didn't care about their approval. I didn't realize they were actively ignoring you. It's not your fault, Dylan. You're the youngest. You were probably too busy dealing with your own stuff to notice. Still, I should have been a better brother. That night, I got an email from Chelsea. The subject line was, "I'm so sorry." The email was long, rambling, and clearly written in a state of panic. She detailed her financial problems, her struggles at the law firm, the mounting pressure that led to her decisions. She begged me not to press charges, promising she'd get help and make amends. She said she was checking herself into a mental health facility because she'd been having dark thoughts. The last line hit me hard. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I just want you to know that you were always the better person, the stronger person, and I was jealous of that. I'm sorry I let my jealousy turn me into someone who would hurt you. I read the email 3 times. Then I called Dylan back. Did Chelsea send you an email? Yeah. Just got it. It's intense. Do you think she's serious about the mental health facility? I called to check. She checked herself into Riverside Behavioral Health this afternoon. Apparently, she had a complete breakdown after you left. Is she safe? The doctors say she's stable but struggling. They recommended a 30-day inpatient program. Mom and Dad are freaking out, obviously. Of course they are. The golden child is tarnished. Marcus, don't. I know you're angry, but Chelsea's really suffering. I'm suffering too, Dylan. I've been suffering for years. Nobody cared about that. You're right. I'm sorry. I don't want to lose my sister to suicide or something worse. The word suicide hit me like ice water. I hadn't considered that Chelsea might actually harm herself. I'd been so focused on my anger and betrayal that I hadn't thought about how desperate she must have been to make the choices she made. She won't, I said, though I wasn't sure I believed it. The doctors will keep her safe. I hope so. What are you going to do about the charges? I don't know. Let me think about it. After we hung up, I sat with Chelsea's email open on my laptop. Despite everything, I didn't want my sister to die. I didn't want her to hurt herself, but I also didn't want to just sweep her crimes under the rug and pretend everything was fine. The next morning, I got a call from my mother. Her voice was small, defeated. Marcus, Chelsea tried to hurt herself last night. My blood ran cold. What? She's okay. The staff at Riverside stopped her, but she tried to take pills. They have her on suicide watch now. Oh God, please, Marcus, I know you're angry. I know we've failed you as parents. But please don't press charges against Chelsea. She can't handle any more right now. It might kill her. The guilt crashed over me like a wave. Was I responsible for Chelsea's suicide attempt? Had my anger pushed her over the edge? Mom, Chelsea's problems aren't my fault. She made choices, bad choices, and now she has to face consequences. I know. But criminal charges might be too much. She's already lost her career, her reputation, everything she built her identity on. If she goes to jail, I don't think she'll survive it. What do you want from me? Give her a chance to make this right. Let her get help. Let her rebuild. You can always press charges later if she doesn't follow through. And what about me? What about what I need? What do you need, honey? The question caught me off guard. Nobody had asked me that in years. I need acknowledgement. I need you to actually see me, not just when there's a crisis involving Chelsea. I need you to understand that your favoritism damaged both of us. I need to know that things are going to change. They will change. I promise. Your father and I have been talking. We're going to start family therapy. We want to fix this. Words are easy, Mom. Actions matter. Then let me show you. Give us a chance, please. I wanted to believe her. Despite everything, I wanted to believe my mother could change, that our family could heal. But trust, once broken, doesn't repair quickly. I'll hold off on pressing charges for now, I said. But I want weekly family therapy sessions. I want honest conversations about how this family functions. And I want Chelsea to pay for her own legal defense and any fines or restitution she owes. I'm not bailing her out. Done. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet. If Chelsea violates my trust again, if you and Dad slip back into old patterns, I'm done. I'll press charges, and I'll walk away from this family for good. Understood. We won't let you down. I hung up feeling like I'd either made a terrible mistake or taken the first step toward healing. Only time would tell which it was. Family therapy turned out to be even more uncomfortable than I'd imagined. Dr. Sarah Martinez was a clinical psychologist who specialized in family systems, and she didn't pull punches. Our first session, held 2 weeks after Chelsea's suicide attempt, was brutal. Chelsea was out of Riverside, but still in an intensive outpatient program. She looked fragile, almost ghostly, sitting on the couch next to Mom. Dad sat stiffly in an armchair. I took a seat as far from everyone as possible. Dylan had opted out, saying he needed to process things on his own first. Dr. Martinez started simply. Tell me about your family dynamic. For 20 minutes, my parents painted a picture of a loving, supportive family that faced normal challenges, but always came together. Chelsea nodded along, adding examples of family vacations and holiday traditions. I sat silently, watching them rewrite history in real time. Finally, Dr. Martinez turned to me. Marcus, you've been quiet. Do you agree with this characterization? No. The single word hung in the air like a grenade. Tell me your version, Dr. Martinez prompted. I did. I talked about the years of being compared unfavorably to Chelsea, the accomplishments that went unnoticed, the hospital stay nobody visited, the quiet ways I'd supported the family financially while remaining invisible, the hurt that accumulated over decades, until it became background noise I learned to ignore. My mother cried. My father looked stunned. Chelsea stared at her hands. Chelsea, Dr. Martinez said, what do you think about what Marcus just shared? I knew he felt overshadowed, Chelsea said quietly, but I didn't know it was this bad. I thought he didn't care about their approval as much as I did. Did you ever ask him? No. Why not? Because. Chelsea struggled to find words. Because if I acknowledged his pain, I'd have to acknowledge my part in it. And I couldn't face that. And now? Now I don't have a choice. I destroyed my life and hurt my brother in the process. I have to face it. Dr. Martinez turned to my parents. Richard, Patricia, you've heard both of your children describe vastly different experiences of the same family. How do you explain that? Dad cleared his throat. I think we saw what we wanted to see. Chelsea was easy to celebrate because she was excelling in visible ways. Marcus was quieter. He seemed content, so we assumed he was fine. You assumed, Dr. Martinez repeated. Did you ever verify that assumption by asking him directly? No, Dad admitted. Patricia? Mom twisted a tissue in her hands. I failed both of my children. I put impossible pressure on Chelsea to be perfect. And I ignored Marcus because he wasn't performing the way I expected. I wanted to have something to brag about to my friends, and Chelsea gave me that. Marcus didn't fit the narrative I wanted. So I just stopped trying with him. The admission was stark and painful. Part of me appreciated the honesty. Part of me wanted to walk out. Here's what I see, Dr. Martinez said. You have a family system built on performance rather than connection. Love and attention became transactional, tied to achievements and meeting expectations. Chelsea became the repository for all your hopes and dreams, which crushed her under the weight. Marcus became invisible because he couldn't or wouldn't perform in the same way, which left him feeling unloved and unvalued. Neither child got what they actually needed: to be seen, accepted, and loved for who they are, not what they accomplish. She let that sink in before continuing. The crisis with Chelsea's fraud was actually a gift, though it doesn't feel like one. It shattered the illusion of perfection and forced everyone to confront the dysfunction. Now you have a choice. You can do the hard work of rebuilding authentic relationships based on honesty and mutual respect, or you can try to patch over the cracks and wait for the next crisis. What do you want to do? I want to fix this, Mom said immediately. I want to be a better mother. What does that look like in practice? I don't know. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. That's the problem, Dr. Martinez said gently. You're asking for a script, a formula for how to perform the role of a good mother. But real relationships don't work that way. You have to actually engage with your children as people, not as roles in your family narrative. Dad spoke up. How do we start? Start by listening. Really listening. Without defending, or explaining, or trying to fix things. When Marcus tells you he's hurt, don't tell him why he shouldn't be hurt, or how you didn't mean it. Just acknowledge his feelings. When Chelsea tells you she's struggling, don't push her to be stronger, or try harder. Just be present with her struggle. Over the next few sessions, we slowly unpacked decades of dysfunction. Chelsea revealed the extent of her financial problems. She was over $200,000 in debt, mostly from trying to maintain the lifestyle she thought a successful lawyer should have. She'd leased an expensive apartment, bought designer clothes, drove a luxury car she couldn't afford. All of it was performance, trying to look the part even as she fell apart inside. I thought if I looked successful enough, I'd eventually feel successful, she explained. Instead, I just buried myself in debt and anxiety. Dad admitted he'd been emotionally distant his whole life, struggling with his own feelings of inadequacy because he'd never finished college. He'd projected his unfulfilled ambitions onto Chelsea and written me off as not ambitious enough to bother with. Mom revealed she'd grown up in a family where love was conditional, tied to achievement and meeting expectations. She'd unconsciously recreated that dynamic with us. The revelations were painful, but necessary. Slowly, incrementally, we started to see each other as real people, instead of the roles we'd been playing. But just as things seemed to be improving, a new crisis emerged. I received a letter from Sterling Financial Group's legal team. They were suing Chelsea for damages related to the fraudulent expert testimony. The amount, $1.5 million. They'd lost the case because of Chelsea's fraud, and they wanted compensation. Chelsea couldn't pay that. She didn't have a job. She was drowning in debt, and her law license was officially revoked. The lawsuit would bankrupt her completely, and my parents immediately looked at me. "Marcus." Mom started hesitantly. "I know this is a lot to ask, but Chelsea needs help. Would you be willing to loan her money for a lawyer?" I felt the old familiar pattern starting up again. Crisis happens. Everyone looks to Marcus to fix it. Marcus stays invisible, except when needed as a resource. "No," I said firmly. "No?" Dad looked shocked. "No. Chelsea needs to handle this herself. She created this mess. She needs to find her own way out." "But she'll lose everything," Mom protested. "She already has lost everything. That's what happens when you commit fraud." "Marcus, please," Chelsea begged. "I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm desperate. If they bankrupt me, I'll never recover. I'll be drowning in this for the rest of my life. You should have thought about that before you used my name to commit fraud." The words came out harsher than I intended, but I didn't take them back. I'd spent my whole life rescuing my family from problems they created, staying quiet and helpful, while getting nothing in return. That dynamic had to end. Dr. Martinez, who was present for this conversation, intervened. "Marcus, you're not obligated to help financially, but I'm curious what you're feeling right now." "I'm feeling angry that once again, I'm expected to bail out Chelsea. I'm feeling frustrated that my parents immediately assumed I'd fix this. I'm feeling exhausted by this family's inability to let Chelsea face real consequences." "Those are all valid feelings," Dr. Martinez affirmed. "Marcus is right," Chelsea said quietly, tears streaming down her face. "I can't keep expecting him to save me. I did this. I have to face it." "But how?" Mom asked desperately. "How will you survive a $1.5 million judgment?" "I'll file for bankruptcy," Chelsea said. "I'll lose everything, but maybe that's what I need. Maybe I need to start over completely, without the pressure of maintaining an image or living up to expectations." It was the first time I'd heard Chelsea take full ownership of her situation, without trying to manipulate someone into fixing it for her. It surprised me. "I can help you find a bankruptcy attorney," I offered. "Not pay for one, but connect you with resources. I know some people." "Thank you," Chelsea said. "That means a lot." But as we left the session, I got a text from Dylan. "We need to talk. It's about Dad. Call me as soon as possible." I called Dylan from my car. He answered on the first ring, his voice tense. "Marcus, Dad's in the hospital." My heart dropped. "What happened?" "He had a heart attack this afternoon. Mom found him collapsed in the garage. He's stable now, but the doctors say it was serious. They're running tests to see if there's permanent damage." I drove straight to the hospital. By the time I arrived, Mom and Chelsea were already there, sitting in the waiting room looking shell-shocked. Dylan paced near the window. "Where is he?" I asked. "ICU," Mom said. "They're not letting visitors in yet." We sat in silence, waiting. The irony wasn't lost on me. When I was hospitalized, nobody came. When Dad had a heart attack, we all dropped everything. The difference was stark. After 2 hours, a doctor came out. Dad was awake and asking for us. We could visit 2 at a time, 5 minutes each. Mom went first with Chelsea, then Dylan. Then it was my turn. Dad looked small in the hospital bed, hooked up to machines and monitors. His face was pale, his voice weak. "Marcus, I'm glad you came." "Of course I came. You're my father. After everything, I wouldn't have blamed you if you stayed away." I pulled up a chair. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck. The doctors say I need surgery. Triple bypass. They're scheduling it for tomorrow morning." "You're going to be okay." "Maybe, maybe not. That's why I needed to see you. In case I'm not okay, I need to say some things." "Dad, don't. Let me finish. I've been a terrible father to you, Marcus. I see that now. I let my own insecurities and disappointments make me blind to who you actually are. You're a good man. You're responsible, kind, hardworking, loyal. Everything a father should want in a son. And I ignored all of that, because you didn't fit the picture I had in my head of what success looks like. Tears welled up in my eyes despite my best efforts to stay composed. I don't know if I'll survive this surgery, Dad continued. Heart surgery is risky, especially at my age. But if I do survive, I want to do better. I want to actually know you. I want to ask about your life and care about your answers. I want to be the father you deserve to have all along. You're going to survive, I said, my voice cracking. And I'm going to hold you to that promise. Deal. Dad tried to smile, but grimaced in pain instead. There's something else. Your mother and I updated our will last week, after therapy started. We're splitting everything equally between you, Chelsea, and Dylan. Before, we'd left most of it to Chelsea, because we assumed she was the successful one who'd manage it well. That was wrong. You're all our children. And you all deserve to be treated equally. Dad. I don't care about the will. I know you don't. That's part of why you deserve equal treatment. You've never been motivated by what you could get from us. You just wanted to be seen and valued. A nurse poked her head in. Time's up, I'm afraid. I stood to leave, but Dad grabbed my hand. Marcus, if something happens to me in surgery, take care of your mother. Not financially. You've already done enough of that. But emotionally, she's going to need support, and you're stronger than you know. Nothing's going to happen. You're going to be fine. But as I left the ICU, I couldn't shake the fear that those might be the last words my father ever said to me. The surgery was scheduled for 7 a.m. the next morning. I took the day off work. We all gathered in the waiting room. Mom, Chelsea, Dylan, and me. For once, we weren't performing or competing. We were just a family, scared and hoping our father would survive. The surgery took 6 hours. The surgeon came out, looking tired, but satisfied. It went well. We bypassed 3 blocked arteries. He's in recovery now. The next 24 hours are critical, but I'm cautiously optimistic. Mom burst into tears of relief. Chelsea hugged her. Dylan pumped his fist. I felt like I could breathe again. Dad spent 3 days in ICU before being moved to a regular room. The doctors said he'd need weeks of recovery and cardiac rehabilitation, but the prognosis was good. During his recovery, something shifted in our family. Mom started actually asking me about my work, my interests, my life. She listened to the answers and asked follow-up questions. Chelsea and I started talking, really talking, about our childhood and how it had shaped us. Dylan became more present, more engaged, instead of hiding in the background. And Dad, once he was strong enough to have conversations, started keeping his promise. He asked about my job, seemed genuinely interested in the financial systems I worked on. He asked if I was dating anyone, and when I said no, he didn't push or make me feel bad about it. He just said, "When you meet the right person, you'll know. No rush." It felt like meeting my father for the first time at age 34. 2 weeks after Dad came home from the hospital, Chelsea's bankruptcy was finalized. She lost her apartment, her car, most of her possessions. She moved back in with our parents temporarily, sleeping in her old childhood bedroom. The State Bar Association officially disbarred her. The Sterling Financial Group lawsuit was discharged in bankruptcy, though the moral weight of what she'd done remained. One evening, Chelsea asked if I'd take a walk with her. We ended up at a park near our parents' house, sitting on swings like we'd done as kids. "I've been thinking a lot about what Dr. Martinez said," Chelsea began, "about how we were both trapped in roles. You were the invisible one, and I was the golden child. Neither of us got to just be ourselves. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out who I am without being a lawyer, without being the successful one. It's terrifying, Honestly, I've defined myself by my career for so long that without it, I feel lost. What do you want to be? I don't know. Maybe that's okay for now. Maybe I need to be lost for a while. Figure things out without the pressure of living up to anyone's expectations. For what it's worth, I think you're brave for admitting that. I don't feel brave. I feel like a failure. You made mistakes, big ones. But you're taking responsibility and trying to change. That's not failure. That's growth. Chelsea started crying. I'm so sorry, Marcus. For everything. For letting Mom and Dad make me the golden child and not standing up for you. For using your identity. For monitoring your finances. For assuming you'd always be there to bail me out. You deserve better from me. Yeah, I did. Can you ever forgive me? I thought about it. The hurt was still there, raw and real. Trust would take years to rebuild, if it could be rebuilt at all. But Chelsea was genuinely trying to change, to be better. And I was tired of carrying anger. I'm working on it, I said honestly. Forgiveness isn't a switch I can flip. But I'm willing to try. If you're willing to keep doing the work. EM. I promise, EM. We sat on the swings in comfortable silence for a while. Then Chelsea asked, do you think our family can actually heal from this? I don't know. But for the first time, I think we have a chance. 6 months later, I sat in Dr. Martinez's office for what she called a family progress check-in. The changes in my family were visible and profound. Dad had completed cardiac rehab and was healthier than he'd been in years. More importantly, he'd become emotionally present in a way I'd never experienced. We had lunch together every other week, just the two of us, talking about everything from sports to philosophy to our respective jobs. He asked questions, shared stories from his own life, and treated me like a person he genuinely wanted to know. Mom had started volunteering at a community center, teaching financial literacy classes to low-income families. It was her way of channeling her need to help others into something constructive. She'd also become intentional about spending individual time with each of her children, treating us as unique people, rather than roles in her family narrative. Chelsea was working as a paralegal at a small firm that knew about her past and hired her anyway. The pay was modest, nothing like what she'd made as a partner. But she seemed genuinely happy. She was living simply, paying off her debts slowly, and going to therapy twice a week. She'd started volunteering at a legal aid clinic, helping people who couldn't afford lawyers. The work was meaningful in a way her corporate law practice never had been. Dylan had joined us for therapy sessions, working through his own issues with feeling caught between his siblings' drama. He'd started law school, but with a healthier perspective than Chelsea had. He was doing it because he wanted to, not because anyone expected it. And me? I was learning to take up space, to speak up when I felt ignored, to set boundaries without guilt, to believe that my needs and feelings mattered just as much as anyone else's. So, Dr. Martinez said, looking around at all of us, tell me about the biggest change you've noticed in the last 6 months. Mom spoke first. We talk now. Really talk. We have family dinners where we actually ask each other about our lives, instead of just performing or competing. Dad nodded. I've gotten to know my children as adults. It sounds simple, but I'd never done that before. I'd been stuck seeing them as the kids they were, not the people they became, Chelsea said. I'm learning who I am without the pressure of being perfect. It's hard and uncomfortable, but it's also freeing. For the first time in my life, I feel like I can breathe. Dylan added, the family actually feels like a family now, not a performance or a competition. Dr. Martinez turned to me. Marcus, you've been quiet. What's the biggest change for you? I thought about it. I feel seen. For the first time in my life, I feel like my family actually sees me as a person, not as the disappointing son, or the invisible one, or the one who's just okay. They see me. And how does that feel? Good. Really good. But also strange. I spent so long being invisible that being visible is still uncomfortable sometimes. I'm learning to accept attention and care without immediately deflecting it. That's significant growth, Dr. Martinez affirmed. She looked at all of us. When we started this journey 6 months ago, you were a family in crisis. Chelsea had committed fraud. Marcus felt invisible and betrayed. And your parents were confronting the damage their favoritism had caused. You could have fallen apart completely. Many families do. But you chose to do the hard work of actually changing. That takes courage. Mom wiped her eyes. I don't want to lose my children. That was my biggest fear through all of this, that I'd destroyed our family beyond repair. You didn't destroy it, I said. But you did damage it. We all did. In different ways. The question isn't whether we can erase the damage. We can't. The question is whether we can build something new and healthier on the foundation of what we've learned. Can we? Chelsea asked, vulnerability clear in her voice. I think so, I said. But it requires all of us to keep showing up, keep being honest, keep doing the work. The second we slip back into old patterns, we risk losing everything we've built. Dad cleared his throat. I want to say something. Marcus, I know I apologized before, but I don't think I fully expressed what I needed to say. You have been the backbone of this family for years, supporting us financially, emotionally, practically, and we never acknowledged it. We took your strength for granted and treated your steadiness as mediocrity. That was wrong. You are an extraordinary man, not despite being different from Chelsea, but because of who you authentically are. The words settled into the empty spaces inside me that had been aching for decades. Thank you, I managed to say. That means more than you know. Chelsea spoke up. I want to make amends properly, beyond just apologizing. Marcus, I know I can never fully repay you for the harm I caused, but I want to try. I'm keeping a record of every dollar I owe you from the financial monitoring, even though you said not to worry about it. When I'm on my feet financially, I'm paying you back, not because you asked, but because it's the right thing to do. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Not for you, but for me. I need to take responsibility for my actions, and that includes making financial restitution when I'm able. Dr. Martinez smiled. This is what accountability looks like. Chelsea is taking ownership of her actions and their consequences. That's the foundation of real change. We spent the rest of the session talking about ongoing challenges and future goals. It wasn't all healed. Trust was still fragile. Old patterns occasionally resurfaced, but we were committed to catching them early and addressing them honestly. As we left the office, Mom asked if I wanted to come to dinner that weekend. Your father's grilling, and we'd love to have all our kids there. No agenda, no drama, just family. I'd like that, I said. That Saturday, I showed up at my parents' house with a side dish I'd made. Dylan was already there, helping Dad with the grill. Chelsea was in the kitchen with Mom, making salad. For the first time in my memory, dinner conversation included everyone. Dad asked about my latest project at work, and actually listened to my detailed explanation of the new system architecture. Mom asked Chelsea about her paralegal work, and how she was managing the transition. Dylan talked about his law school classes, and his concerns about following in Chelsea's footsteps. And when the conversation turned to Chelsea's accomplishments at the legal aid clinic, Mom added, "We're proud of all our children. Marcus for his incredible work rebuilding his company's systems. Dylan for having the courage to pursue law school with a healthy perspective. And Chelsea for rebuilding her life with integrity." The words "we're proud of all our children" hit differently than "she's the one we're proud of." The inclusion rather than comparison made all the difference. After dinner, as I was leaving, Dad walked me to my car. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For not giving up on us. You could have pressed charges against Chelsea, cut us all off, and never looked back. You would have been justified. But you gave us a chance to change. That was a gift. I didn't do it for you, I said honestly. I did it because I needed to know if real change was possible. If our family could become something worth being part of. And, is it? I looked back at the house, at the lights glowing warmly in the windows, at my family visible through the glass. Yeah, I said. I think it is. Driving home, I reflected on everything that had happened. A year ago, I'd been invisible, quietly resentful, supporting a family that didn't see me. Now I was visible, valued, and part of a family that was genuinely trying to be healthier. The journey wasn't over. Healing from decades of dysfunction doesn't happen in 6 months. There would be setbacks and struggles, but for the first time in my life, I believed my family loved me for who I was, not for what I could provide or how I measured up to someone else. The lesson I'd learned was simple but profound. You can't force people to see you, but you can stop making yourself invisible. You can set boundaries. You can demand respect. You can walk away if necessary. And sometimes, when people are confronted with the reality of losing you, they'll choose to change. But the change has to be real. It has to be sustained. It has to go beyond words to actions, beyond apologies to different behavior. And it requires everyone involved to be willing to do uncomfortable work. My family had chosen to do that work. Not perfectly, not without struggle, but genuinely. And that made all the difference. As I pulled into my driveway, my phone buzzed with a text from Chelsea. Thanks for coming to dinner. It meant a lot to have you there. Love you, brother. I smiled and texted back. Love you too. See you next week. For the first time in years, those words felt true. So here's my question for you. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Have you been the overlooked sibling? The one whose achievements got dismissed while someone else got all the attention? How did you handle it? Did you speak up, walk away, or find another path? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else who's struggling with the same feelings. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories, and share this with someone who might need to hear it. Remember, you deserve to be seen. You deserve to be valued for who you are, not compared to who someone else is. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is stop making yourself small to make others comfortable. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it brought you some comfort, some insight, or at least the knowledge that you're not alone in your struggles. Take care of yourselves, set those boundaries, and remember that real family is built on respect, not obligation. Until next time, this is Marcus, reminding you that being invisible is a choice you can unmake. Stay strong, and I'll see you in the next story.